You're calling 911 over a couple grilling burgers in their own backyard? That's exactly how this story starts. With smoke in the air, music playing softly, a couple finally enjoying a calm Sunday barbecue, and a neighbor who decides that their peace is a personal attack. It's late afternoon, the kind of golden hour that makes everything look like a movie. Marcus is at the grill, flipping burgers and brushing ribs with his secret sauce, while his partner, Lena, is setting out plates and laughing with their friends. Kids are running around with water guns, someone's arguing about whose playlist gets the aux next, and the only real problem is whether there will be enough wings for round 2. On the other side of the fence, though, there's a different mood brewing. Arms crossed, curtains twitching, nose wrinkled. That's where Karen comes in. To her, this isn't a normal backyard BBQ. It's a safety hazard, a noise violation, and as she'll later claim, a violation of her rights. And she's about to make it everyone's problem. At first, Marcus doesn't even notice her. He's too busy doing what every grill master does, pretending the tongs are some kind of magic wand and announcing, "These ribs are my masterpiece," to anyone who will listen. Lena just rolls her eyes, smiling as she checks the side dishes. But then the vibe shifts. The talking quiets, the laughter fades just a little, and you can feel that weird, prickly awareness when someone is staring at you. Marcus looks up. There she is, Karen, standing at the edge of her yard, phone in hand, face already set to offended. "Excuse me," she calls out, in that tone that tells you this is not really a question. "Do you have a permit for this?" Lena blinks. "A permit for our backyard?" Karen scoffs. "For the smoke, for the noise, for the gathering. This is a residential area. You can't just host an event." An event? We're talking about a couple of folding chairs, a Bluetooth speaker, and a grill you can buy at any hardware store. But in her mind, this is Coachella. Marcus tries to keep it calm. "We're just having a family BBQ. It's Sunday, we're on our property, and it's all within the rules." That should be the end of it. But if there's one thing we've learned from real-life incidents like BBQ Becky at Lake Merritt and all the viral park and picnic meltdowns, it's this. For some people, minding their own business is simply not an option. Karen steps closer to the fence. "I know the rules. I'm going to call the HOA and the police. You can't do this. I have rights." Here's where things get tense. Everyone goes quiet. You can hear the sizzle of the grill, the distant sound of a lawnmower down the street, and Karen angrily tapping her phone screen. Lena tries one more time. "Look, we're happy to keep the music lower, but we're not breaking any laws. We've checked the city rules, the HOA rules, all of it." Karen smirks. "We'll let the police decide that." And she dials. Now, if this was the first time something like this had ever happened, maybe you'd shrug it off as just one uptight neighbor having a bad day. But we've seen this story play out over and over again. At parks, at lakes, in apartment courtyards, someone sees a normal barbecue and decides it's a crime scene. In Oakland, a woman famously called the cops on a black family for using a charcoal grill in a perfectly legal area of a public park. That incident turned into a national conversation and sparked a massive BBQing while black event, where hundreds of people showed up to grill in solidarity. But back to this backyard. Karen is pacing now, voice raised, giving the dispatcher her version of reality. "Yes, I'd like to report an illegal gathering. There's smoke everywhere, loud music, and they're grilling in a way that's not allowed. It's a safety hazard. I feel threatened." That last part hits different. Marcus hears it and his jaw tightens. "Threatened?" he mutters under his breath. "We're literally flipping burgers." Let's pause here for a second, because this is more than just a neighbor being annoying. This is about weaponizing the police over petty personal grievances, turning normal, harmless behavior into something suspicious, dangerous, and punishable. Karen finishes her call with a flourish. "Yes, I'll be waiting here. Please send someone quickly." She hangs up and gives Marcus and Lena a tight, victorious smile, like she's just saved the neighborhood from a gang of arsonists. The guests start to murmur, some are anxious, some are angry. One of them quietly suggests, "Maybe we should just shut it down. It's not worth the trouble." But Marcus shakes his head. "We've done nothing wrong. Our permits are valid. The HOA already signed off on backyard grills, as long as they're a safe distance from the house, which this is. The city allows it. I'm not packing up my grill because she feels like playing junior cop today." And here's the twist you've been waiting for. Because Karen didn't check everything as carefully as she thinks she did. And today, the authorities she called are not going to play the role she imagined. About 20 minutes later, you hear it. The slow approach of car tires on asphalt, the clink of a gate, the unmistakable sound of radios and belts. Two police officers step into view, followed by a third person in plain clothes holding a soda can and wearing an apron? Marcus squints, then breaks into a grin. Rick? The man in the apron grins back. You really think I was going to let you burn those ribs without professional supervision? That's right. The plainclothes guy is Rick, Marcus's cousin, and he just happens to be the police chief, dropping by late to the BBQ with a side of cornbread. Karen has no idea. She marches up to the officers before they can even say hello to anyone else. Thank you for coming, she starts, all righteous. This has gotten completely out of control. They're hosting some kind of party, there's smoke, noise, and I'm pretty sure it's against the HOA regulations. They refuse to shut it down when I ask nicely. One of the uniformed officers nods politely. Ma'am, we'll take a look. Then Rick steps forward, still holding his soda, looking around at the setup. The grill, the distances, the tidy yard, the kids, the laughing guests. Marcus, he says, this the massive illegal operation I heard so much about? Marcus smirks. Guilty of seasoning the chicken a little too well, maybe? Lena can't help herself. Careful, Rick. Any more paprika and we're facing federal charges. The tension breaks into a few nervous chuckles among the guests. Karen, however, is not amused. She glares at Rick. Who are you? He turns to her calmly. I'm Rick, and I also happen to be the police chief. Silence. You can almost hear her brain rebooting. She tries to recover. Well, good. Then you can actually do something about this. They're disturbing the peace, and I believe there are fire code violations. I pay taxes for this neighborhood to be safe. Rick raises an eyebrow. Ma'am, I've been to this house before. I've seen their setup. Their grill is the correct distance from the house. The propane tank is properly stored. There's a fire extinguisher right there, and they're within permissible hours for noise. Do you have any evidence of illegal activity or an actual emergency? Karen sputters. The smoke, the noise, and I feel uncomfortable with this kind of crowd in the neighborhood. It's not what this area is supposed to be. There it is. That sentence doesn't fully come out, but everyone hears the part she doesn't say out loud, the part that echoes through real-world stories over and over again, at parks, in apartment complexes, in stores. People like you don't belong here. Rick's expression changes. The friendliness drains away, and something colder settles in. Let me get this straight, he says slowly. You saw a family grilling in their own backyard, having a good time, and your first instinct was to call the police? Karen opens her mouth, then hesitates. She wants to say it's about safety or rules or order. She wants to insist it's not about who they are. But with Rick standing there, calm and unimpressed, the words don't land the way they do in her head. Meanwhile, one of the uniformed officers has walked around the yard, checking everything. He comes back and nods at Rick. Everything looks fine. They're within guidelines. No violations that I can see. The second officer adds, music's not even that loud, and it's the middle of the day, not 2 a.m. Now Rick turns fully toward Karen. Ma'am, calling emergency services for non-emergencies takes valuable resources away from people who actually need help. We're glad to respond when there's danger, but a normal backyard barbecue is not a crime. You can feel the entire yard exhale, but Rick's not done. He continues, there have been way too many situations lately where people use the police as a way to enforce their personal preferences or their biases. That's not what we're here for. Karen's face is bright red now. So you're just not going to do anything? Rick shrugs. We just did. We investigated. We found no problem. The only issue I see is a neighbor harassing another neighbor over something fully allowed. Then he drops the line that will replay in everyone's mind later. Sometimes, the best way to keep a community safe is simple. Stop calling the police and mind your own business. You can almost hear the headline forming. This moment feels like those post-BBQ Becky protests, where people showed up in the same park to BBQ while black, just to prove a point. You have a right to exist, to gather, to cook food, and enjoy your community without being treated like a threat. Karen crosses her arms, furious. This is not over. I'll call the HOA. I'll talk to my lawyer. This is against my rights. Rick shakes his head. Your rights don't include turning your neighbors' normal lives into emergencies. If you continue to file false or frivolous reports, that can have consequences. That part lands. You can see it in the way she flinches. There's a thin line between concerned citizen and serial caller, and she's balancing on it. The officers step away to chat quietly with Marcus and Lena, taking their information just in case, and assuring them they're all good to continue. One of them even jokes, "Those ribs smell amazing, if I weren't on duty." As the officers leave, Rick stays behind, finally putting down his soda and rolling up his sleeves. "Now," he says, clapping his hands together, "where's my plate?" The whole yard erupts in laughter. The tension dissolves. Music goes back up just a bit. The kids return to their games. The air smells like smoke, spice, and something else too. Relief. From the kitchen window, Karen watches, fuming, as the very people she tried to shut down clink plates with the police chief and keep the party going. You might think the story ends there, but there's often a second act in stories like this. Marcus, encouraged by Rick and some of the guests, decides not to just let this slide. He files a formal complaint with the HOA and documents the whole day. The permits, the local regulations, the police visit, the lack of any violations, and Karen's repeated harassment. What starts as a single backyard incident slowly becomes a pattern on paper. It turns out she's made similar suspicious activity complaints about other neighbors. Kids selling lemonade, a family hosting a birthday party in broad daylight, someone practicing music in their garage at noon. The HOA, worried about legal liability if one of her calls escalates badly in the future, finally steps in. She's warned in writing that misuse of authorities and harassment of neighbors violates community rules. She's told that further baseless reports could result in fines, or worse, legal consequences. Meanwhile, Marcus and Lena take inspiration from that BBQing while black event. A few weeks later, they host something of their own, a neighborhood cookout, open invite. Not a protest exactly, but a statement. People bring food, music, chairs, different families show up, some from a few streets over who'd never met before. Kids mix together instantly over board games and footballs. And this time, nobody calls the cops. Karen stays inside, curtains tight, occasionally peeking out, but never stepping forward. The message is simple and unmistakable. This neighborhood belongs to everyone who lives in it, not just the loudest complainer. So what's the lesson in all of this? It's not just, haha, Karen got owned. It's about the very real stakes when you turn everyday moments, barbecues, park picnics, family gatherings, into criminal suspicion. It's about the power of community to push back, to say, no. Existing in public, enjoying our homes, and spending time together is not a crime. And it's about how satisfying it is when the system for once doesn't reward the person trying to weaponize it. Next time you see a headline or a viral clip about someone calling the cops on a BBQ, a picnic, or a kid's lemonade stand, you'll know there's a bigger story there, about fear, control, and who gets to feel comfortable in shared spaces. But there's also another side, the side where neighbors show up, communities unite, and sometimes the very people called as weapons, like those officers or that police chief, refuse to play along. If you want more stories where entitlement backfires, justice hits in unexpected ways, and regular people stand their ground against absurd behavior, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment with the wildest Karen moment you've ever witnessed. And if you've ever had someone try to shut down your good time for no reason, share this video with them as a gentle reminder. Minding your own business is still free. Now tell me in the comments, if Karen called the cops on your BBQ, how would you handle it?